down about the team from their hometown. Josh to Keon, touchdown. Rodgers to Wilson, touchdown. You gonna laugh, you gonna cry, but these two are ride or die. They'll take you all the way to the Super Bowl or the exhibition game. Stay with them all the way to the Hall of Fame.
And welcome back to another edition of Official Word Sports. I'm Vince. I'm here with my co-host Stevie D. All right, it's 4 days later. I, you know, how do I put this, Stevie D? First and foremost, it is amazing. It is amazing all of the support that I have received. You would think that I literally was playing in the game, and I appreciated everybody, right? Stevie D, people are, oh, man, I'm so sorry. I, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Are you okay? I'm sorry. I'm good. I am good. I'm not happy. I'm not happy, but I'm good. Um, and then the next thing that comes out in the conversation is you guys got screwed. And,
Yeah,
and that,
tough one.
that seems to be dominating and basically breaking the internet are the photos of the fourth down play, the infamous fourth down play, Buffalo up 22-21 at the 40 and a half, driving and the spot, right? That seems to be what everybody's talking about, Stevie D. And I have to tell people, there's a couple things I tell them. I tell them, first of all, when you're in a game like that, you would hope that the referees are not part of the game. They should not be the story. They should not be the footnote. They should not be part of the game at all. That's the first thing. However, you also have to realize you're on the road. You also have to realize you're going up against a two-time defending champion. You also have to know that the team you're going up against has a lot of high profile players and girlfriends, etc., etc. So there's a lot that you're going up against. And I'm often reminded that the statement that they say in boxing, right? When you are going up against the champion, you can't let it go the distance and put it in the hands of the judges. If you want that belt, you have got to knock the champion out. You have to. And when you don't, then you allow yourself to be susceptible to, the judges' scorecards where you're like, what? Right? All of a sudden it's a draw or, it's a split decision. Well, the same holds true here. When you're going up against the champion, call it what they are, they are the defending champions, you have to knock them out. You can't hope that you can kind of get by in a 22-21 type game or a 27-24 or what they had, right? You can't. And I go back to these folks that are saying, I'm sorry, I feel bad, the ref screwed you. Yeah, they did. They did. But the problem, the loss, was not because of a poor officiating day by the officials. It was because Sean McDermott, Joe Brady, Bobby Babbage, the offensive line, and the defensive line did not show up. That was the problem. So stop with the putting the pictures up of where Allen was on the 40. Stop with the pictures of Dalton Kincaid dropping the ball. Stop with the pictures of on the previous play of that fourth down, the third down play, where Dalton Kincaid got the first down, no knee on the ground, no elbow on the ground, and the ball crossing the 40. That goes back to coaching. That goes back on the Dalton Kincaid play. Challenge the play. You decided you were going to run up to the line like you had been, and thinking in your mind, we're going to catch him off guard. It goes back to the coaches, the offensive line, and the defensive line. So if you want to point the finger back to our team, how they were not prepared. The Stevie D, and I'm sorry, I didn't even let you get in when we started, but
let it out. It's part of it's the 5 stages, but actually you're doing much better than you have been in previous years on things. So you sound in a much better place. So
well, it's just I'm tired of blaming the officials. Where yes, they were wrong. Yes, it was a bad call, but look in the mirror.
Yeah, it's funny. The third down play, and I've seen the third down play, but I haven't scrutinized the third down play. Hey, what's up, Craig? To see if the knee was down. Obviously, the elbow wasn't down. So, me personally, I haven't seen it. All I'm saying is, to your point, is you have challenges in your pocket. Time really wasn't a factor for you to lose a challenge at that point, where you would lose a timeout. To me, would be a killer, because I can tell you, if it was close enough on third down to challenge for the first down, I would have done it, because we know in this league, anything can happen on any given play.
Sure.
We saw it with, I'm not saying that you guys would be the, what team that missed the snap, the Raiders, that all of a sudden just going to snap the ball. You guys aren't coached that way to make that kind of mistake. But the center could be off a little bit. Josh trying to reach because he knows he's going to take the ball and run. Maybe there's a misconnection there. Maybe he stepped on, right? Maybe the tush push guy doesn't get the tush push in a row, right? So if you had that opportunity to challenge that play for the first down at that moment, you should have, because it's a huge play. It's a huge play if you can get that first down on third down, where you don't have to, like you said, rush the play on fourth down, because that's what they chose to do, and it didn't flow right. I agree with you. At the end of the day, I think I've heard this a lot from my son's baseball team growing up on the travel team, and you're traveling around the U.S. and you get hosed. Like sometimes you get an umpire, right? Obviously the stakes are totally different, but it's like the coaching staff would tell us as parents, look, the umpires are not winning and losing the game. You have 9 innings to make a difference in a game. Right. So if little Johnny strikes out on a bad pitch, don't get all crazy and think that's what lost you the game. Right. And so there's a lot of plays that go into the game. There's a lot of coaching that goes into the game to the point earlier of your coaches and your offensive and your defensive line. What's tough to swallow is that it is a meaningful part of the game. Chris Jones looked like he was in the neutral zone on the fourth down play. You had what appeared that Josh Allen got the first down. So you have that. And then you have the third down plays. You got a line judge right there. Maybe he wasn't in position. Again, I didn't see it to see if the line judge had to run down the field and he wasn't fully lined up to that. So he went by the knee or the stomach instead of looking out for the reach out because everything was off the ground. Not seeing that line judge. Maybe the line judge was out of position. And I think when the line judge is out of position, they look for the midsection, because most people carry the ball by the midsection. So you fall, I'm going to place it where I see, because I'm running to the spot. I don't know. I'm making something up that I don't know is factually true about the line judge on that play. But what was in the power, to your point, was Sean McDermott to say, oh, man, they missed that one. I'm going to throw the red flag. Or because was it under 2 minutes? That play may have been under 2 minutes.
No.
It wasn't under 2 minutes?
No.
All right, then he had the power to challenge it himself. Okay. Then I don't know why you wouldn't challenge that play. So the very worst, You get to bring your team on the sideline, get everybody get a fresh breath, take a deep breath, and get ready for the fourth down.
And that was their MO. They figured that they were going to catch the Chiefs off guard. We're going to go fast, and they'll never know what's hitting them. But so Stevie D, we saw early on with the NFC Championship game, you had the Eagles and you had the Commanders, and there was a series of plays that was at the goal line. Started at the 1, okay, and follow me here. It started at the 1, and you saw, I think, the safety Lufu for the
The
Redskins
linebacker, former Jet linebacker Frankie Louvu putting the Jets on center stage in that game.
jumped over the defensive tackle, the center, right, trying to time the snap, way off, right? And so then half the distance to the goal. And then you saw the Eagles, you knew what they were going to do, same formation. And you saw the Commanders try to anticipate the snap. They were offsides again. Half the
For the
distance.
third straight play.
Well, this is the
Because
second.
Frankie jumped over the top twice, and then they inched.
But they were offsides on the second one.
Yeah.
Then what did the Eagles do? The Eagles changed the snap count. They changed the snap count. Why? Because the coaching staff, who's paying attention to the game, says we see them trying to anticipate the snap count. And they change it. Simple thing. But no, what did the Bills do? We're going on 1. First down, we're going. And so a well-coached team, such as the Kansas City Chiefs that they are, they had prepared for that. They had prepared for Buffalo's little tush push. They focused all on Buffalo's left side of their formation. They stacked it on the right. They had Chris Jones not basically, lining up in the neutral zone, right? Another uncalled penalty. But they also had him going just before that first count. So he
knew what the snap count was, and he was often. I mean, it was perfect time. Even though his helmet was in the neutral zone, it was perfect timing. As soon as that ball, he was in that gap, that A gap,
and he was
and shot that gap.
Take advantage and get the leverage and kind of push that back. So now instead of Josh having that extra half yard to kind of get the momentum, he's actually probably a yard back trying to go forward.
If I can step in for a second, another thing that the Bills have on tape, to when you were saying, you keep running it to the left side. What's up, Rob? Is he positioned his body because he knew they were going to the left side, so he had his body on an angle that allowed him to shoot the gap as soon as the ball was hiked, to be in the right position to shoot that gap. He was like on almost like a 45-degree angle with his helmet in the neutral zone, and they snapped it. He shot between the guard and the center and got his hands around the waist of Josh Allen immediately. And
Yeah.
Chris Jones is a big, strong guy, so that really kind of stunted the opportunity for Josh to really, get 1 or 2 yards that he normally gets on a play like that. So again,
100%.
Kansas City was prepared.
And so you say it's the officials. No, it's not the officials. People stop with that. You have done something for 18 weeks plus 2 playoff games. Do you not think that people are watching this? But yet you think you're the smartest person in the room. You think that what you've been doing for 18 weeks plus 2 playoff games is just always going to work. Well, Stevie D, if it doesn't work the first time, if it doesn't work the second time, why am I doing it the third, fourth, fifth time? You could run that same play, but guess what? You have all the coaches on your staff. Somebody should have said, whoa, I know he doesn't like to go to the right, go to the right or even go over center.
You know, when we talked about coaching the play calling this year, and they said it during the game, so I'm not saying anything that wasn't said during the game. The Kansas City Chiefs did not have one designed QB run all year. So there was a fourth down play. I don't know what quarter. My apologies to everybody not knowing the down, but you'll know what I'm saying when I describe the play. The Kansas City Chiefs on fourth in inches or fourth and one, they rushed to the line of scrimmage like they were going to do a cadence of trying to get the defense to jump off sides.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's what normal quarterbacks do. They get up to the line trying to get you to draw. Not only did they snapped the ball right away, and they did a bootleg with Mahomes, a play that they didn't do all year. So the coaching staff doing things that were not seen on tape. To your point, Buffalo Bills doing the same play over and over again, not getting the yard because they stuffed them a few times, where the Kansas City Chiefs said, we're going to give Buffalo a different look that they haven't seen all year.
Yeah. That was the fourth down play coming out of the timeout in the second quarter. Absolutely. From their own 39, I believe it was.
Right. Great play call to just get up on the line and snap it really quick, because I don't think anybody would have anticipated that. I think everybody thought they were going to do the hard count, right, and such. So kudos to the Chiefs again. Great play calling by Andy and staff.
So Stevie D, again, I go back to this, and I have to say this to everyone: stop with the officials. Stop. It's not the officials. Yes, bad calls, right? All throughout, bad calls. Not going to disagree. You're not going to hear an argument from them. And yes, it would have been nice. What would have happened if we had the first down? Who knows? Right? You get the first down. We could have run 3 plays. Could have, we weren't committing turnovers, but we could have had a turnover. We could have had loss of down. We could have had anything. Maybe we scored a touchdown. Go up 8. Go for the 2-point. Now, who knows? But what I do know is that you had plenty of opportunities throughout that game to utilize your run game, which for the previous 2 weeks, you went up against top 5 rush defenses and dominated them on the ground. You didn't do that this game. You did that to start the second half, went right down the field, Cook getting 6, 7, 8 yards a pop. Ty Johnson had a nice little explosive run. Then you stopped. It was intermittent. So you could have done that and really taken control of that game early. You could have kept Mahomes off of the field. There's a lot that could have happened. You had a bad injury to Benford, which we talked about before, should not have been out there. But you needed to have your defensive line step up because you knew Elam was getting beat. Now, why Elam stayed in there getting beat, I don't know, but neither here nor there. You have Greg Rousseau out there talking about I want to be paid. You have AJ Epinesa out there who just got paid. Guys saying that they're difference makers. You got Von Miller out there saying that he's the closer. He didn't close anything. He needs to close his mouth. You have Ed Oliver, got paid, didn't do anything. Daquan Jones didn't do anything. I mean, these are your guys in there that you're paying to be difference makers. Going up against a Kansas City Chiefs offensive line that is not one of their better lines that they've had over the years. I'm losing you there, Stevie D. I couldn't hear you. But it go ahead. I can't hear you. So they went up against one of their lines that is not one of the best lines that they've had. And they still got beat, manhandled.
Yeah, they had to move Thuney, who was their first team All-Pro left guard, to left tackle right? Because their left tackle's out. So obviously you got Creed Humphrey, who's an all-pro kind of center. But other than that, Thuney and Humphrey, could have moved the needle. I mean, I have to say, though, I know this is that play by Phillips.
I agree with you, Craig. We've talked about
We've talked about that too, right? Spread it out. With a guy like Josh Allen, he's big enough. If you spread it out and you don't have everybody in the middle, I believe Josh Allen can get me that yard against just about anybody. So it was Phillips. I mean, not many times do you see a lineman pick up another lineman like Phillips did and throw him back. That was a bit of strength that you don't see very often. What's up, Mark? That you don't see very often. Literally picking up an offensive lineman off the ground and throwing him back. That was incredible. That was incredible to watch. But that was the only play by the defensive line was that play.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, I'll put it like this, Stevie D. If the game was coming down, Chiefs up 2, maybe 4, right? Something like that. Under 6, we'll say. Under 6 with under 2 minutes to go, Josh gets the ball, and we're driving down the field. Clock's ticking down. And something like that happens by the officials. Yes, I will be banging the drum. The officials screwed us. But people stop. It wasn't the officials. Poor job by the officiating crew, but it wasn't the officials. Again, take a look in the mirror. Well, the Bills need to take a look in the mirror and realize the problem was Sean McDermott, Joe Brady, Bobby Babbage, the offensive line, and the defensive line. That was the problem. And I named how many different people, but that was the problem.
Yeah, look, that one, those two sequence of plays from the third down to the fourth down were bad by the officials. Personally speaking, again, not a Bills fan, you may disagree. I'm not a Chiefs fan, just a fan of that game of the NFL there. I love the game with little laundry being thrown.
Sure.
Right, and they let the teams play. I thought there was one questionable face mask, well, a couple that could have been called. I think one was tough for the officials. I think it was on Tranquil when Josh Allen went over the top. I think that's a tough see with all those bodies like that when it's more. I just think it was harder to see that, but there was a face mask there, and I thought there was another face mask that I thought should have been called that wasn't called. But I don't think it was a game-changing moment. Although a 15-yard penalty is a big deal, but I do like
it for a face mask on the sideline and make it
less is more, right? You didn't have the pass interferences, you didn't have a ton of holding calls, a ton of pass interference calls. I thought the linemen did pretty good about not leaving early. That's been a problem in the past. I thought that was pretty good. So overall, I thought it was a clean game. It's just that one, that sequence of plays. It's just disappointing.
Well,
from an official standpoint, you have a job to do.
There were more than just those. Now, and let me be fair, right? Let me be fair. I have concentrated on where Buffalo was screwed, right? I'm sure that there were some missed calls of things that the Bills did, right? I will be fair with that. But I do believe that more of the game-changing penalties maybe could have been defined by on the punt return. Now, I have a problem with that one, right?
The hold that wasn't called?
The hold that wasn't called, and there was a block in the back. However, Stevie D, those occurrences happened 30 yards down the field. Why did we allow him to get 30 yards down the field? So don't go crying about, oh, they missed a holding or a block in the back 30. What happened there? Where's your coverage? Our special teams, period, have been putrid. Putrid. I'm actually wanting Bruce DeHaven to come back. That's how bad they were. So yeah, you missed the call, but then again, look in the mirror. Why did you allow a man to get 30 yards down the field? There's a problem there. There's a big problem there. So yeah, again, if you go on any social media stream, if you listen to any of the talking heads, they're still going at it, right? They're still talking about how the Chiefs get the calls. They do, and they say how Buffalo got screwed, and at the end
You-
of the day, we didn't get screwed by the officials. We got screwed by our coaching staff.
and look, I'm sure you can go through the turn of time in any sport when you have a team that's dominating over a period of time, like the Chiefs. The Patriots had their run, the Yankees had their run, Edmonton Oilers had their run, the Island, right? All those teams that had those dynasties, you get calls, right? You become that darling of that league because you're winning championships and you're winning a lot. So you're going to get calls like that. And then I thought you had the best line so far of the night. If you want to beat the champs, you have to knock them out. You can't put it close enough where if an official or something like that can happen that you can feel like you got robbed. And I think that's a really good analogy used with the boxing that you have to knock them out. And
You
it
do,
didn't happen.
and what is that? That's the 2-score victory. That's what you have to do. Stevie D, I will say, and maybe because again you're blind when things happen in your favor, right? Because the Kansas City Chief fans, Chief Kingdom or whatever they want to call it, they're like, that didn't happen. Oh, that didn't happen. This was down. That was a catch. That okay, guys. Right?
As a Yankee fan, absolutely, it was the same way in that dynasty run. Same way, blind to it
But
all.
but what I'll say, we as Bills fans, we feel is that we're always on the wrong side, but we're not, right? But we don't get the calls when we play equal or above.
Okay.
But when we play like the Giants, everybody remembers that game with the Giants comes down to the wire. Whoa, we got lucky, right? I'll be the first to tell you we got lucky. There's games where you play against Tennessee and you're like, ooh, wow, that one kind of got away with that, right? But that goes out of your mind really quick with sticks in there. And again, when you start to play equal or above, and it feels like you don't get the call. Last thing I'll say on this, and we talked about it before, right?
Oh shoot! That's why I never get any calls. Because when you're 5-12 and you say you go above,
It,
thank you. That
it,
explains
it,
it now.
it is tough. No, seriously, it is tough when you're a bottom feeder. You are dying. I plenty of times as a Bill, right? When we were down, you're like, how are you missing this, right? And then next thing you know, you start to get to midway, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, we got a call, right? There's a roughing the passer call, right? All of a sudden you start getting more and more. But I have been a big proponent for Sean McDermott to have his tenure with the Bills terminated. I've been saying this for the last 2-3 years now, right? Um, and we talked, and I have to be clear. I did think that last year or 2 years ago was the best shot because I really wanted Sean Payton as the head coach, and Sean was out there, right? And so you could have played for that. But when you finish number 2 in the conference, when you go on a long playoff run, you don't have much of an opportunity to fire your coach and still be able to find that guy unless you're doing some underhanded things, right? And where conversations and agreements are had, even though that coach is in place and the season's ongoing. That you just don't, because when week 17, well, week 18 comes to a close, you have all the teams that didn't make the playoffs conducting interviews, right? And so now your team is preparing to go forward. You can't say, I want to have an interview. Your guy's still under contract. So it makes it really, really hard.
Yeah, and I think it talks about what we've talked about before, and now I think other people, because we've been saying it for a very long time, and it started getting traction just about a week ago. Of the NFL needs to do something about stopping the hiring process while the season's still going. And we've been doing this, what, 7 years? I like to say every bit of 6 years we've been saying it because we watch teams like, look at the Detroit Lions. Just this week, Ben Johnson, Aaron Glenn, their tight ends coach, their offensive line coach, all these coaches now are following Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, and we'll get into the Jets a little bit later, are following him. Now Dan Campbell's got to be like, I gotta get everybody replaced, and there's nobody out there because they all got jobs. I feel bad for like a guy like Dan Campbell right now. I think the Eagles had that 2 years ago
Yeah.
when they lost their offensive coordinator. Defense. I don't know how many assistants they lost on that tree as well, but the Lions are getting hammered right now between the Bears and the Jets alone.
Yep.
With their coordinators and their assistants. It's rough. And like you say with Buffalo, you go deeper, you want to make that change. Who are you going to get? Who are you going to bring in to make that change? So, I really wish the NFL competition committee would really, and I don't know if it's a competition committee discussion or it's one of those where a team like the Lions has to submit something that says we need to look at this because look what it's done to our franchise here. And look, Detroit, welcome to the big time, right? Now you know what it feels like to be on top and what happens, right? Teams that have been successful through the years have dealt with this year over year, right? Because the more you win, right, there you go, the Ravens, right? The more you win, the more your coaches become desirable and for promotions and things like that. So it is what it is right now. I just wish somebody would raise that up in the NFL with the owners and they should talk about it because why not have that freeze? What did the Jets gain from firing Salah from week 5 to this week hiring Aaron Glenn? What advantage did they get? There was none, right? There was none. So the Jets, you tell me the teams can't wait until February to do this?
Yep.
The draft is April. If you start this, what's it, Sunday the 9th or 8th, it's the Super Bowl. That Monday you allow that, teams are going to fill these spots within 2 to 3 weeks.
Yep.
Right.
Less
People are
than
going to be
that.
flying all over
Less
the place
than
doing these interviews. It will get done really quick. You can get your staff in place and you can go out to hire. Because really, you already have your scouting department that's been scouting players throughout the globe all year, and you already have that data. So when the new coaches come in, okay, give me the data that you have. I mean, I don't think it's too much to say, let's move it, because the Jets did not start really interviewing until the end of the regular season, which was January for them, 10th maybe, somewhere around there. So we're still in January now. So 19 days later, it took them 19 days. Yeah, that puts us right into the heart of February. I think it can be done.
I'm with you. I'm with you, Laura. I'm rooting for Saquon in this one. I'm rooting for Saquon.
I'm just keeping my mouth shut.
Well, you're in that land.
Yes, I'm not trying to get killed.
You're right, Rob. You're right. The hopes and dreams and desires of that, I think, are just a dream. I think that's exactly what it is. And what's a shame is that you have a top tier quarterback where he just needs that little bit of boost, right? He needs that mind on the sideline. He needs that mind in the locker room that can scheme up week in and week out different things, right? But allow his quarterback to truly be the driver. And it's not going to happen, right? It's just not going to happen. And this isn't a woe is me type statement, Stevie D. I just truly have no confidence in Sean McDermott to take them over the hump. I just don't. And we've talked about this in years past, right? You have, and this I will give credit to Sean. I think Sean McDermott is a very good head coach. And you have those coaches that are the bottom tier where the teams go 4-13 and 3-14, whatever. And they just can't get out of their own way. They get fired, they become coordinators, they may get a second shot, and they're still where they are. They may even go 0-16, right, Hugh? But they may go, oh yeah, I had to bring Hugh back.
It's
But
been a while. Welcome back.
they may do that. Then you have your next tier, right? Your next tier, they're the middle of the pack. They never get the playoffs, but they're close, right? But they don't get the playoff run. Then you have your next group. And that next group usually is your solid set of coaches, right? Guys that will have multiple year runs with a particular organization, maybe like a Marvin Lewis type, right? Where you're able to prepare your team to get to the playoffs. You might win a game or two, right? You might, but usually you're a one and done, or you may even lose that first one. Then you have that next tier, and that next tier is the very competitive coach. That means that they have the locker room. That means that they have the what am I looking for? They have the command and the discipline. Really is where I'm going with it. They have that, but there's something that they're missing to become that great coach, to be that Bill Walsh, to be that Bill Parcells, right? To be that great coach. And sometimes you don't even have to be that great. You just have to be just a little off in here, right? Like a John Gruden, right? You know how to twist and turn and push all those buttons to get what you want. Now, it may be short term because people may look at you sideways the next season, but you knew just enough to get them to get over the hump, right? That's a John Gruden.
Yeah, and then he destroyed the whole franchise.
That does happen. That does happen.
This is the dilemma you're in. You can't go. You can't move on from Sean even if you wanted to, because there's nobody out there that that I could think that could do a better job than what he's doing right now. Where are you going to find that, right? So, you're going to be riding with Sean because who's out there? Who's out there that you can go grab, right? I don't know of a name that you can grab.
There is nobody, and unfortunately, or fortunately, or however you want to look at it, you're not going to replace Sean McDermott with the hot new
Coordinator.
No way. You're not going to do that. It has got to be an established head coach with a proven track record of winning.
And I don't know where that is right now in the NFL.
Give me a name. I'll wait.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know of one that's hanging around. And I don't want to hear people say John Gruden because he's not a successful coach. He had success early on in his Raider days, and that got traded. Made the tweaks that needed to make for the Tampa Bay Bucks with Brad Johnson, and they won a Super Bowl. And after that, little by little, he wrecked that team. He brought in Raider after Raider, and it wasn't working. Yep. And ruined that franchise, decimated that defense. He couldn't even get the fullback Scott's name right. I mean, it was a debacle with that, right? And then he went back to the Raiders a second time, and it obviously it didn't work even before the emails were released. It's not like he was killing it as a head coach. I really don't know of a named coach out there that had success that's available that you could bring into your veteran locker room with your coach and automatically going to take you over the hump. Yeah.
There's only one name, and I don't know if he still has it, and I don't know if he wants it. There's only one name. Belichick. There's the only
Let me tell you something. If the Bills came calling for Belichick in Buffalo, he would jump on that. He'd be nuts. He's got a really, really good roster and an A++ quarterback. How could you not jump on that?
But I just wonder if the game has passed him by. That would be my concern. And oh God forbid he start bringing in those clowns like Romeo Cannell, Charlie Watts.
No, I don't think that would happen. But
it's locked up there.
You know, in fairness to Belichick, time away from the game may have done him well. To see the game from a different lens, from the other side and watching it, and he may have says, "Yeah, I can see where I've gotten stale." Possibly, I don't know if he had trouble connecting with the younger players. I think that model of shut your mouth and keep everything in house was something that you could get away with in 2001,
Sure,
2002,
sure.
2003. As social media is now rampant all over the place, it just doesn't work. It's a different world than it was in his early heyday with New England. So if he could learn that, his knowledge of the game, I still think he could still scheme up the defense. That is for darn sure,
I
and
agree.
do it right.
I agree.
I think he would be a fit there. I do think he would make the necessary adjustments to do it. But
That's the only name I could think of. And
you'd have Steve Belichick as defensive coordinator.
see, this is down to real quick, right?
Who else would there be available? Right? Like Charlie Weiss, you're not bringing Charlie Weiss, right? Vrabel's now a head coach. I mean, maybe he brings in Mayo as his defensive coordinator. So,
That just hurts.
but in all fairness, though, I think you're on to something there. If you were gonna, that's probably the only coach you could see of all the past names that would be somewhat available. Belichick would be the only name that you could, in theory, see taking that role. Because it's sure not going to be no rookie coach.
I'll tell you
No
what,
way.
Stevie D. I'll tell you what. You better win. You better win, because if you make that switch
Oh, right.
and you come second place in the division, or you go bounce in the first round, oh boy. I
Yeah.
just don't.
I mean, look, Tampa rolled the dice, right? You had a coach that took this franchise. Tony Dungy took this franchise that nobody heard about, right? They were irrelevant for how long. Built that Hall of Fame defense. There's more places in the Hall of Fame, right? Ted Marchibroda, okay, right? And built it all up, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, you can't take us over the hump. We're gonna fire you, and we're gonna give up draft picks to bring this guy from Oakland. You want to talk about pressure making that work?
Well, that one, if you remember, for the Bucks and Dungy, the problem Dungy had was that offense was so
Hard.
anemic. I mean, it was insane. And you look at the quarterbacks that they had. I like Sean King, but yeah, the quarterbacks were bad. The coordinators were bad, and they had a good running game, and that was it. The bar really was kind of low, because you had a phenomenal defense.
Yeah.
That defense you could ride anywhere, all day, any day, right? Sapp, Brooks, Lynch, Rice. You could go on Barber. I mean,
Lynch. They had Hall of Famers from the front to the back,
Yeah.
right down the middle of the field.
yes,
You want to talk about having the ultimate defense? That's what you wish you could always have, is that Hall of Fame class right there in the center. Oh, the
And you-
communication was amazing on that defense.
and you kept Monty Kiffin. So they were like, we're good. Don't mess with us. We're good, right? And they were just fine. So I think the bar was low, and it was easy to get there. I think it's a little different here in Buffalo. I think it's a little different. So we'll see, right? Obviously, we get started in our offseason. Tomorrow are the pressers. I've been waiting for the press conference.
Isn't that a little long to do the? I thought they had 24 hours to do the press conference
Well, this is the end of the year presser. This isn't the post that game. They had that one.
Okay.
This is the state of the Bills, kind of, McDermott.
Now, who addresses that? Is that the GM, the head coach, both?
Head coach and GM. So McDermott's going to get up there. These guys played their hearts out this season. A lot of changes that we had throughout. Josh is just one heck of a quarterback in my eyes. He's an MVP candidate. Unfortunately, we just didn't get it done. But I can tell you, we're going to go back. We're going to study the film. We're going to understand where, we need to make some improvements. And I tell you, in 2025 season, when we take the field for training camp and for mini camp, we're going to be ready to go with our eyes on the prize. So, I'm very proud of these men that are here in this locker room, and I'll field any questions. Coach, why didn't you challenge? Next question. Coach, why didn't you? Next question. So if anybody wanted to hear the press conference, there you go. I just gave you the full rundown, right? And then Brandon Beane's going to get up there and he's going to say, "Well, we had some problems with the cap, but we feel that we're positioned now to be able to make some great additions and help bolster this team, and we'll see what we could do. I'm very excited what the future looks like." So, coach, or so Brandon, what are you going to do with Von Miller? Next question. What about Greg Rousseau? Next question. Right, that's what you're going to get. So I've just saved you, the next 50 minutes of your life when you try to listen to that tomorrow. Anyway, Stevie D, enough on the Bills. Um, no show could be complete without the segment from Stevie D. And look at that smile starting to come on his face. Ladies and gentlemen, this gentleman over here to my right, my visual right, that gentleman over there for the last 12, 13, for about the last 14 weeks, and really for the last 18, 19 weeks, did not have a smile, right? It was either just an even, or it was a very much of a frown and disappointment and disgust. And now his team has started to make some changes. And you're starting to see the smile come back. This is the gentleman that I decided that I was going to do the podcast with. Look at that smile. Look at the excitement. I mean, I don't know what else to say, but except for this is Stevie D's corner. Stevie D, take it away.
One, it's great to have clarity finally, right? The organization was in disarray since week 5 when they decided to fire Robert, right? Saleh. So, as fans, we all know that the dysfunction was then set right then and there at week 5. And it was like, all right, put the seatbelt in because it's going to be a crazy, bumpy, off the rails ride the remainder of the year, right? And so we all know how the season went. It was not very good. So, what did the Jets do? They interviewed 3,225 people for head coaching and GM positions, and they finally landed on their head coach and GM. And only Jets fashion they can do this is that they hire the head coach first and then the GM. But before we totally get into that, because really, when you think about it, it's very rare that you hire a head coach before the GM. It is so rare that Shad Khan said, "Oh, no, Jets. Oh, no. We want to join you in this reversed psychology, and we're going to..."
Don't talk about him yet. Don't talk about him yet.
No, I'm not going to talk about that, but I'm just saying they decided to fire their GM to hire a head coach to match the Jets. But we will get into that.
Oh, yes, we will.
Okay, we will get into that. So I'm not going to give that away, but I'm just saying, move over, Woody. You got company at the table of doing it that way. So now, do I think when they were interviewing Aaron Glenn, because that's the Jets' way. That's Woody. That's the way Woody believes that. Because this is not the first time he's done this, right? So if you're not an insider with the Jets, this is not new. I'm not saying it's the right way to go. It is unorthodox of having a coach and GM report into an owner instead of the structure of the head coach going to the GM to the owner. The Jets feel that this could bring better collaboration within the group. Where
are you worried about that?
It didn't work the first time, right?
When you ask for accountability, and I bring you in one-on-one now, right? It's not a skip love. I bring you one-on-one.
Right.
Aaron's gonna be like, I'm not getting my guys, right? And he's got the built-in excuse. GM's like comes in one-on-one. This guy isn't getting the best out of the guys.
Yeah. I don't like that model. That's just a model Woody has employed more than once. And so that's what he's choosing to do. It's his organization. I don't like it. I'd like the GM to be hired first and then the head coach. But we decided not to go that route again. And we hired Aaron Glenn. And I have to say, welcome home, Aaron Glenn. It's nice to have one of your own that understands the passions of the fan base and the misery that the fan base has gone through. He was there for part of it. He was there for part of the rebuild with Bill Parcells. And so I'm really happy about Aaron Glenn. I didn't like the coaching candidates as a whole this year. I didn't think there was one guy that you said I had to have as a head coach. But I like the Aaron Glenn. I know he's a defensive-minded coach, but I did like his interviews that he had with Detroit about that question about when they asked him, "You're a defensive coach. How pretty much how are you going to be successful? How are you going to be successful if you've only been a defensive coach?" And I know I messed it up, but it was the premise of him always being a defensive coach. And his answer was, I'm a football coach. I just happen to coach the defense. He goes, I know how to coach offense. All right. I'm the CEO of the football team, and I will be involved in every aspect of the team. Right. So as a Jet fan, I don't know what they've heard or didn't hear from that interview that he had when he was still with the Lions when they were in the playoffs. I think it was right before the playoffs started. They asked him that question. You have to be excited because I think the one thing that the Jets have lacked since Rex Ryan is a coach that is a coach of all aspects of the team. Because Rex was that way. For 6 years, we dealt with Rex about defense, defense, defense. Right? I give a little bit of pass to Todd Bowles there. Adam Gase was a disaster, and you look at Robert Sala's 4 years or 3.5 years with the Jets, and it was always about the defense. And you heard him talk about it all the time. He always gushed about the defense, never talked about the offense in a way of scheming the offense like he would do the defense. So I think with Aaron Glenn, with that statement, it gives me the chills of finally we have somebody that understands that I am the coach of everything, not just one side of the ball. Now, actions mean a lot. Will he put that all into action? That's a wait to see, right? People have asked me what have I thought about Aaron Glenn, and it's like anything else. It's a wait and see. I don't know. I liked his press conference, and you know what's great about Aaron Glenn? He's got the greatest mentor of all time, and they talk all the time. And Bill Parcells. Okay, he's talked to Bill Parcells so many times already before about being a head coach. During the interview process with the Jets, he talked about the head coach. And since he's been head coach, he's had conversations again with Bill Parcells. So he's got that mentor, and he gives a lot of credit towards Bill Parcells. He also learned from Sean Payton. So when you talk about coaches with a great track record, the two people that he had great influences from were Sean Payton and Bill Parcells. That's pretty cool to say that you've learned a lot from those two guys because they've won a lot of football games in this league. They've won their championships. So knowing that he's not going to Sean Payton for any advice now, but he could have that. He has that mentor in Bill Parcells to help him through, especially navigating some of the media. I was very critical of Robert Saleh and how he handled the media. I think his answers to the media were atrocious. I think he spoke too much. Less is more. And so I'm really excited about the Aaron Glenn. Moving over to our GM, I don't know what to think about Darren Mooj, I guess is his nickname, Mooj, okay. 12 years, all with the Broncos, from scout to assistant GM. He's seen good, he's seen bad. He was part of some good moves, he was part of some bad moves. I just don't know what to think of this guy. I don't know. Everybody's all nicey nice on the press conference between the GM and the head coach, and the smiles, the hugs, the high fives. But we'll see. There's a lot of question marks with this roster, and there's a lot of things you have to throw out. So my GM, it's a wait and see, Rob. I can't say I have great thoughts. I've put that out on Jets Hanger. It wasn't my choice, right? But it is who I have. And so now you just got to get behind the person and hope that with the scouting department, with Aaron Glenn and him, and the partnership as they evaluate players, strengths and weaknesses, leadership qualities, football guys that you're looking to build the right culture, that they can pick those right guys that will help change a culture that's in this locker room of stink. Okay? The Jets roster going into the season did not have stink. A lot of people thought the Jets were going to be a darn good football team. It didn't work out. Why? Was it all the coaching? Was it some of the players? Maybe some of the players that we all really like, maybe they're not a fit. Maybe they're part of the problem in the locker room. I don't know. But it's something that Aaron Glenn and Mooj have to get to the bottom of it. Because there's no way that roster should have been 5-12. Right? You can put a lot on coaching. But man, there's a lot of things that I read on social media from players liking certain posts, not taking accountability in post-game interviews, right? You have a quarterback that says don't have distractions, and he was one of the biggest distractions, right? So there's a lot going on in that locker room that Aaron Glenn and Mooj have to get to the bottom of it. But like he said, on Aaron Rodgers on the press conference, me and Mooj are going to watch every game, and we're going to break down everybody's performance. And the tape doesn't lie. And we're going to find out who wants to be here and who doesn't want to be here. And and that's it, they're gone. Okay? So Aaron Glenn is laying down the law right now that there's a new sheriff in town. And I love that about Aaron Glenn. For the full video, go to Jets Hangar. I posted the whole video, the press conference of it. I don't think that portion I captured because that was a different sideline report where they had all the media kind of like he was almost like at a locker room, right? They were recording him, and he laid down the law right then and there. And I was like, that's what I love because we didn't have that accountability. So I'm not really, Rob, to answer your question. I don't know what I'm going to get out of the GM, but I can tell you early returns on what's coming out of Aaron Glenn's mouth. I do like, but again, we'll see during the evaluation process when free agency starts. What players do they let go? What players do they value to bring back in? Right? And then which way do they go with the draft? I am hoping, I'm throwing it out there now, they continue with the offensive line rebuild in the first round. I don't want to hear about some hot shot tight end or some hot shot receiver. Games are won in the trenches. And let's face it, folks, our trenches need some work. They need to stay a bit younger.
Stop. What pick do you have?
7.
It won't happen. But if Travis Hunter makes his way to 7,
he's going 1. Travis Hunter will go 1.
If he makes his way to 7.
Oh, yeah. Travis Hunter, I think, is that one generational talent that you have to take.
Okay.
Right? But the reality is, the Jets are not trading up to grab Travis Hunter, and he's not falling to the Jets at 7. So, at the end of the day, it's going to be offensive line, and that's who you got to have. I don't want to hear about an edge rusher. People saying, "Oh, you got to take the guy from Penn State." No, I have Will McDonald. I got Jermaine Johnson coming back. I don't need another edge rusher. I need linemen to keep our quarterback upright so we can move the ball. So, So as far as that goes, I'm happy there. Today we had some announcing. I want to make sure I get the names right. Jets. No surprise here. Said about it on Jets Hangar weeks ago. If the Jets were getting Aaron Glenn, Steve Wilkes was going to follow him as defensive coordinator. We put it out on Jets Hangar, and that came to fruition today. Steve Wilkes has been named defensive coordinator. I think that's a really good move. Aaron Glenn has already announced that Steve Wilkes will be calling the plays. Great first move. I love to hear that, Aaron Glenn. I'm not coaching defense. I got Steve Wilkes. I like Steve Wilkes. He's with the 49ers. I know he was let go. They had some differences there with the 49ers. I do like that hire coming in to run the defense. The Jets also announced,
Please tell me Aaron Glenn will not say, I'm sitting in this chair. You know where I'm going with this.
Hugh is making his second stint on the show today.
Steve Wilkes also sat in that chair. I'm just saying. So you can look at your staff. No, I like the hire. I like the hire on 2 levels. I think he's a good defensive mind, and he did sit in the chair, so he can provide a little bit of insight. Hey, this is what I was doing. You need to focus on. I got your back. You need to focus on.
And then Aaron turns, I'm like, dude, they only gave you 1 year. So what advice you could give us? Hey, man, it wasn't my fault. That was a dysfunctional organization over there. Right? Can you imagine that conversation? But I do like the Steve Wilkes hire. I think it's a solid hire for defensive coordinator. The Jets also have a new special teams coordinator for the first time in a very long time. Very long time. Brent Boyer has been our special teams coordinator since Mike Westhoff kind of left the Jets. He survived many, many coaching changes, but at the end, his contract was up. The Jets decided to move on. And Brent Boyer, for the folks that don't know, he signed with the 49ers yesterday. Is their special teams coordinator following Robert Saleh over there back to the 49ers. The Jets hire Chris Banjo from the Broncos. He was the assistant special teams coordinator for the Broncos, worked next to Mike Westhoff, who was there.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Was he responsible for letting the Chiefs block that field goal?
No, that was all Westhoff. That was all Westy. That's what Chris said anyway. I don't know what Westy was doing. I was telling him no. So,
That would be my first question in an interview.
that
How'd you
jailbreak.
blow this one?
Dude, what a jailbreak that was. That's still unbelievable. And then the Jets, Keith Carter, the offensive line coach, is gone. Thank God. I've been asking for that guy to be fired for a long time. And they hired former Lions tight end coach Steve Hayden for their offensive line job. So that's what's been announced. Obviously, we still have the offensive coordinator still out there. There's a Tanner. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, from the Detroit Lions. His name is floating around right now, is to come in to be the offensive coordinator. And then Nick Caley, Caley. He's associated with the Rams. He was like the assistant, whatever. And his name is up in the running. I want the guy from the Rams. I want the guy that's played with Sean McVay, worked with that mindset, and Sean with the offense. And the funny part about it is their offensive coordinator is former Jets offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur, Matt's brother. So it'd be funny to hire Callie to come to the Jets, who now is considered a disciple of Mike LaFleur, who was fired from the Jets. So that's pretty funny in a weird, twisted only a Jets way can do on that. So we're really excited about these names, but it's like anything else. Time will tell. There's a lot of work to do at One Jets Drive. Very different type of work than what's going to happen over at I don't know what they call the Bills training camp, but training facility, but very different than what's going on up in Buffalo. The Jets have a lot more evaluations to do to find out who's going to be here. Oh yeah, we talked about that, Rob. We're going to get into that probably even more. And it's still, the bleeding is still going on, right? Ben Johnson, obviously, he's hired some people from the Lions already. It's a bloodbath. Dan Campbell must be going crazy, saying the NFL's got to stop this. And like what we said about 30 minutes ago, good luck with that, Dan, because every team's been bled dry with assistance, especially over the last 15 to 20 years. It's unbelievable how teams get gutted.
Let me ask you a question. The offensive coordinator leaves. The defensive coordinator leaves. All those guys on that staff now have the opportunity to be promoted to the OC and DC.
Of that team. Yes.
Of that team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yet you leave that team to follow the OC and DC to their new respective teams. Is that because the Lions didn't approach them with opportunities? Or is that truly indicative of the way the head coach was running that organization?
Well, let's. Okay, so I don't know, right? If you look at the Lions, like the tight end coach, he took an O-line job for the Jets. Maybe they like their O-line coach, and there's no place for him to go. But this guy looks at it, hey, it's a promotion for me to learn another position coach, or not learn it, but teach it and build my resume to become a head coach one day. So maybe there's a type of backlog for certain type coaches where you have no choice, but you got to leave. But to your point, could there be some underlining things within an organization where teams say, you know what, it's okay, you can go. You weren't spectacular. You weren't the brain trust. I can replace you as a D line coach, or I can replace you as a secondary coach, right? Type of deal. I think it hurts more to lose your coordinators.
Sure, sure.
Um,
You start to think about it, and you wonder, with Campbell out in front as the front man, right? And you had just a lot of hot air coming out from the day that he got hired all the way to when he was crying at the podium, right? Just and people want to read into it. Oh, that's the emotions and blah blah blah. But really, is that someone who the team really wants to follow? Is that who these guys on the coaching staff want to follow? Because I do believe that if they truly had value within the organization, or let me rephrase that, if they were respected within the organization, they should have brought them into the open vacancies, whether it be offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, offensive line coach, defensive line, whatever opportunity for somebody to step up. But if I'm one of these guys and I'm like, this guy, I sit in meetings and listen to this guy, and enough is enough. And Ben Johnson's like, why do you think I had to get out of there? I couldn't wait for my opportunity, and I got the right. Come with me.
yeah. Well, you wonder. You wonder. You mentioned it earlier, having a backdoor deal, right? Hey, if I go over there, you're going to follow me. How do we know Aaron Glenn didn't have something with Steve on the side? Hey, if I take this job, you up for the O-line job, right? You can start building your resume, blah, 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 blah. And he said, yeah, right? Because maybe it gives Steve a different look, different players to coach. Continue to build a skill set because now you're in a different locker room. Build a rapport there. So we don't know. Maybe the Jets. When I say the Jets, Aaron Glenn worked out a deal with the owner to say, "Hey, we really like this guy. Not only can we give him this job, can we pay him this?" And it's more money from the Lions because maybe the Lions did try to retain him. Maybe there were some negotiations for any team, right? For anything, not just the Lions, right? It's all interesting. Love to be a fly on the wall. Love to be the fly on the wall.
To be such a mass exodus, you just wonder. It really starts to make.
Well, think about that though. When you, man, I was wondering.
Whoa, what's going on there?
Whew,
That's what happens when 5 and 12 hits you.
Wow. I have this on because I'm bald and it was cold down here in the basement, so I put this on. And I'm like, man, I feel like I'm cooking up top. And I forgot that I had this hat on. I'm looking up because right now my video, I got something in front of my eyes, so I can't see myself. I'm like, man, my head is on fire, but I'm not looking at myself. And I'm like, whoo, man, this feels so much better. But I do think though, Vince, when people leave, hey, I'm like the Phil Rizzuto. What do you want? It's like
only here on OW Sports.
Only here on OW Sports, right? We're real. We're not scripted here. That's for darn sure. I don't know. I don't know. I agree because we just don't know. I think sometimes you have friendships, and those friendships go a little bit deeper. And maybe some of these coaches that when they poach, it's the same thing where all of a sudden free agency hits, and players go over and follow their coach. They sometimes don't go for a lot more money. They go because that coach reached out and you feel like you're wanted. And to that, maybe some coaches don't feel that love there, and yet they feel the love of that new head coach. Man, I really want you. Like, I need to have you. And then 6 months into the job, like, damn, why did I follow this guy? This guy doesn't know his butt from his elbow, right?
Yeah.
I just feel bad for teams that get gutted. And that really does need to be looked at. It won't, but I think they do. I think they really need to look at that.
All right, Stevie D. So something happened in the league.
That was so bad. And so I can't. We're going to Jacksonville?
Well, I'm already here in Tampa, so I'm catching some of it. I mean, it is hot. It is hot.
Well, I'm sure they feel burned here in Tampa.
100%.
Right?
100%.
But in fairness, It is a head coaching role, right? I know he had an agreement in place, but from what I hear, you would know this better on the radio. He like didn't answer the phone. Like they've been calling him. Is
He
that
ghost,
true? Is that
he,
what I've been hearing
he
true?
ghosted them.
Okay, so you gotta bring this whole story full
So
circle. Man.
I don't have all of the details, but he ghosted them. All right, so we're talking about, was it Liam Cohen, the offensive
Cohen.
coordinator for the
Yeah.
Bucs?
Coen for the folks. Uh,
Correct.
yeah.
So had an opportunity for the Jacksonville Jaguars head coaching job, but I guess he wasn't happy with the GM and didn't
Trent Baalke.
right and did not want to be part of that organization with the GM there. And I'm willing to bet, Stevie D, that there were a few others that said, no, not with this guy as your GM. And certainly after a few no's and already some speculation, the Jaguars went ahead and they fired the GM. And then all of a sudden, Liam Cohn is up in Duvali, as he called it.
Duval. Oh,
But he's up there and he's signing the agreement to become, or the contract to become the next head coach. But it's what happened in between. So obviously the Bucks gave permission for the first interview, right? Went up there, everything's good. He comes back, and then all of a sudden it becomes radio silent between Bowles and the Bucks front office and Cohn. And they're reaching out there like, what's going on? And then they get a message somewhere along the lines. They get a message that he was attending or he is attending to a family matter, an important family matter. Nobody knows what's going on. Could it be somebody sick or somebody's ill? No, actually, Stevie D, he was flying to Jacksonville. Just didn't want to take the call. Didn't respond to any calls. Finally responds to the call and says, yeah, I've decided to take the job as the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. Just as it's being announced and reported that he has now become the Jacksonville Jaguars head coach. I have so many issues with this because the Buccaneers gave you the opportunity to go ahead and interview. They were paying you big money as an OC. The respect that you owe them is very high because they allowed you to get that opportunity. They could have said no. You would have been disgruntled. Go ahead.
how about just being a man and telling them that you're going,
Thank you.
right? Because that's what men do. They're
Thank
not afraid to say, look, they called, they gave me another opportunity, and I want to take it.
Thank you. Hey, now the question is, have you burned a bridge? I would normally say yes, but in this league, some of these GMs have very short memories.
Can I throw a wrinkle in all this that I don't know if you've heard? Because I haven't heard his name mentioned. Robert Saleh was set to pretty much be named the head coach of the Jaguars. He was coming in for the second interview, and the Jaguars fired the GM, removed Robert from contention for the head coaching role.
Ooh.
Yes, yes. And then this week, Saleh signed on with the 49ers to be their defensive coordinator.
I mean,
He
this is
was
a
set.
soap opera all over it. Bring
So
back
it goes back to the GM, right? Maybe Shad Khan wasn't all in on Robert Saleh as head coach, wants to know why other people are not interviewing, maybe gets some of that information, decides, I'm not all in on Saleh. I'm not liking the direction Balky's going. You're fired. Saleh's out of the mix. And then Shad Khan brings in the guy that I think he really wanted, and he fired the GM and brought in Cohen.
So what you're telling us here on OW Sports that Robert Saleh is responsible for having two general managers fired in the same year.
Technically speaking, that was 24. I know, tomato. Totally understand. But yeah. And I think he's probably pretty proud of that.
I think that's a first. I don't think we've ever seen that before.
Well, only the Jets. Not only could somebody associate with the Jets are the only team in NFL history to name a coach twice as head coach, and the guy never coached a game. So, we are trendsetters here with the Jets. Maybe not the best, but yeah, that was an interesting wrinkle though with Robert Saleh there coming in for the second interview. It looked like it was going to be pretty much a done deal on the second interview, and then Bulky gets fired, Saleh's out of the mix, and some guy flies in from Tampa, gets a new deal. I mean, you want to talk about a wild kind of 48 hours there in Jacksonville, and I got to be honest here. I wouldn't have known this unless I was at the game in Jacksonville. And you put it up on the screen. If you could find it again, Rob put the word out there on how to say the name of the town. Yes. Now, I wouldn't have thought much about it if I've never been to Jacksonville because I don't know what they say during the game. But Duval is pretty darn popular to say 9,000 times inside the stadium. They literally do it. It seems like every 7 plays because nobody knows that they play in Duval, Florida. So they have to say it over and over again. I get it. It's a Jacksonville thing. Just having fun with you guys in Jacksonville. But it was pretty evident that even the 5-year-olds that are sitting right next to us know how to properly say the word Duval. Okay? This is up there with the Adam Gase eyes in the press conference, right? I think every Jet fan would sit there and tell you when they saw the press conference with Adam Gase and they saw his eyes, we all knew it was not going to work out for Adam Gase in New York. Not because he couldn't coach or could coach. He was going to get roasted for the eyes every time. He was going to be on every meme. It was just not going to work. And it didn't work. It didn't work because he's not a good football coach. But the Jet fans didn't allow him to breathe with the crazy eyes. He's now nicknamed Crazy Eyes. You don't even have to say his name. You say, you remember that guy with the crazy eyes? Oh, yeah, Adam Gase. That's how he's known in New York. He's Crazy Eyes. This is along those lines. Because this, and I don't think we have the audio clip, right? We don't have the audio clip, but he comes in and tries to be cool, like I'm hip to Jacksonville. And the way he says Duval in this creepy voice, that is not good. It's not a good creepy voice. It is a jacked up creepy voice where he says Duval. And oh my Lord, I said to myself right then and there, oh, this is not going to work out here. He's going to get roasted. It's just not going to work out. And he's been fumbling. I don't know if you heard about this too. He's been fumbling his press conferences. He sounds like a buffoon in every one of his post conferences since he's been named head coach. It's not off to a good start in Jacksonville at all for this guy.
Oh,
yes, yeah. Honestly, that was a good take on it. Your take was still much better than his take. Just, oh my God,
it is.
It was weird. Yeah,
it is
weird.
Comedy at its finest. It really is, and you're right with the comparison of Adam Gase. That is such a good comparison, and you're right. Nobody's gonna let him live it down. No, nobody will let him live it down. And
I just have it in my head now. Duval, like, dude, how could you not know? That's like doing the Jet chant and not knowing how trying to do a Jets chant. You don't know how the fans do it. How do you say Duval and not know how the fans and they do it in the stadium? Mind blowing to me.
Yeah, it's comedy. I will say that it definitely is comedy. The Jaguars are a very laughable franchise at this point, whether it be Urban Meyer or just they constantly wanting to go overseas and play their games and just all the things that go on there. And this just adds to it, Stevie D. It really does. It just adds to it.
Yeah,
So,
I know we're going to move on. Probably talk about the Raiders, but you wonder with Doug Peterson, he had such a great start there, and it's funny how the wheels fell off.
no, actually, Stevie D, we're going to talk about the Cowboys.
Oh, I thought you were going to save the best for last.
Well, I think we'll do the Raiders next week, but we were really going to go for the.
I just have it in my head now. That was creepy. That was just a creepy way, man. Oh my god, oh, that guy.
There you go. One more time. Give it to him, Liam.
I just have it in my head now.
Yeah, little much for me. All right, Steve.
How about them Cowboys?
I can't explain it. This is what happens, right? When you have a senile senior citizen who still thinks that he is in charge of all of his faculties, even though everybody around him can see that he is not. Time has passed you by, but you have so much money that you still control people like little puppets. That's exactly what happened. But what you didn't anticipate is that those that were of value, those that had a potential pedigree, those that could get the job done said, I am not working for you. That's what you didn't anticipate. You thought you'd be able to throw money and the star. Jerry, you forgot. If you ever listen to the Rapid Reaction intro song, Jerry, Buffalo is America's team, not that team with the star on the helmet. So, Jerry, you do not have America's team. And it was quite evident, Stevie D, in just watching this search. The way he played with Mike McCarthy, what told everybody all they needed to know. And now, what are you left with?
Brian Schottenheimer. But did you watch the press conference at all?
Yes.
The start of it? Did you watch the start of it, not just the clips?
No, not the start.
Oh, if you haven't seen the start of it, so, they have the dais up front, right? And they introduce the members of the dais, right? Jerry and Stephen Jones. And then, so they introduced Brian Jones, and he got a nice clap from
Schottenheimer.
Schottenheimer. What I call him?
Not the guy from Pepsi, later another company.
Okay. So then they introduced Stephen Jones. And to the left is Stephen Jones. And that was it. There was it was such an awkward pause of when they announced it with no clapping. And then finally, probably his son in the back, I better start clapping for my dad. And then a very slight clap came in. It was super awkward because everybody knows, and I don't know if this is truly Stephen Jones's problem. It's his father, and I think his son gets brought into it, and I think his son is trying to do certain things, and his father's blocking him.
I think so too. All right,
because
so too.
Yeah.
This is my
Brian Schottenheimer. Really?
I'm the one that won 3 championships, not you. Well, no, I thought Jimmy did. Don't you dare mention that name around me.
I will take his name from the Ring of Honor down if you mention his name one more time.
So, Schottenheimer, there's a Schottenheimer back in the league.
I've always said, you gotta give the coach time. You never know. The coach could surprise you. I've said that a few times in the last couple of weeks. I gotta see it come to fruition here.
Yeah, for sure.
This one's a head scratcher.
It shouldn't be though, Stevie D. It should.
Well, for the sane individual, it's a head scratcher.
No. It shouldn't be a head scratcher for any of us who follow football because, again, look who's doing the hiring and look at his track record with head coaches. He wants yes men.
Fair.
Right? He's the guy that was in love with Dave Campo. Right?
The king of 5-11, Dave Campo. I think he went 5-11 3 straight years.
He's the guy that was in love with Jason Garrett. He's the guy that brought McCarthy in, but still, even though you had a bigger name coming from Green Bay, yet he still had the screws tight on McCarthy. And just the way everything has transpired, this isn't a head scratcher because nobody that is of, I want to be careful to shot on, right? In all fairness, right? But nobody that is of pedigree and legitimate coach standing for a head coach was going to take that spot. They just weren't. You'd have to be awfully desperate to get back into the league to go there. I'd wait for the next rotation. Do like Leslie Frazier did. There's no way I would take that job. You lock me into 4 or 5 years under that? Oh, I lose my mind.
Well, think about it too, right? You mentioned some names outside of Bill Parcells. There, what right around 05, 03. When some of the names you mentioned, those are puppet masters, right? That are going to serve his agenda, and they know. Dave Campo, who's Dave Campo, right? North Turner, I think did a stint there, very short.
Norvell.
Another puppet master that would cave to Jerry. The only one that wouldn't cave to Jerry would be Bill Parcells. Right, he would be the only one that would stand up to Jerry's world. So, yeah, Rob. That's a great point, Rob. Thank you. It there were some awkward moments on that dais. There was no doubt about it when they were doing that. But again, it's Jerry and his. I don't know what to call it. Illness, sickness. I don't know.
Didn't we see it on the interview? When he did the interview with the radio station, we saw that.
Yeah. Oh God, and he went threaten that guy?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
For doing his job?
Yes.
So yeah, it's it couldn't happen to a finer organization.
So Stevie D, Joey brought up the Raiders head coach. I know you brought it up. Go ahead and take it away, and then we're going to go ahead and close tonight.
Well, the Raiders announced their head coach hiring in Pete Carroll, right? I like the hire for the Raiders. I think the Raiders have had dysfunction, and I think Pete Carroll will bring that stability to that organization to help that organization out. If Mark Davis is willing to listen, I think Pete Carroll will definitely help stabilize that. The GM, I don't know the GM offhand. I know he came from Tampa, the assistant GM from Tampa, that Tom Brady pretty much handpicked for the job for the Raiders. So it's going to be an interesting match. There were some interesting comments, Joey. I don't know how much you saw of it, but I thought there was definitely a little bit of, I just caught a little bit of it where I didn't think Pete and the new GM were really seeing eye to eye, and it came through in a little bit of that press conference. I don't know. I could be reading into something that's not there. I thought I saw something that was like, ooh, that's interesting. Okay. We'll see how that's going to work out, that partnership between those two. But,
what's interesting about the Carroll hiring is that Ben Johnson really was the rumored, Brady pick. That was the hand pick. And then when he decided to go elsewhere, then their plan B. So I like
that was a smart move by Ben Johnson.
I like Carroll over Ben Johnson, personally.
Yeah. I personally, if I'm Ben Johnson, I like the talent on the roster in Chicago better. I just don't know how that GM and the owner is, right? Because they're a little bit out there, right? They can't get out of their own way over there, but I do like the roster better. I do like Pete Carroll there. I thought Pete Carroll would do a hell of a job in Chicago with that young team. But he's with the Raiders, and I think it's a good hire for the Raiders. I do.
Yeah.
We'll just see if he brings back Russell Wilson. Yeah. Well, he's calm, but he's excitable, right? Pete Carroll's got a lot of energy. He's got a lot of spunk for that guy. He's 73.
And don't forget, he was a USC guy, so he can connect.
He knows the area.
I know he's in Vegas, but still, there's a tie-in.
He knows how to play players underneath the table if he needed to get the job done. It's all good.
And if you take my Heisman, I'm going to get it back. All I'm saying. All right. Um, so we have a few more shows left in season 7. Um, thank you everybody. I will continue to say it. We thank everybody in just who everybody who's watching, the new viewers, the new commentators. We thank you. Our
Yeah, I
OG
saw Alex on here too tonight, so I don't think I said hello to Alex. So
Alex was on there. Our OGs are still on here. You guys are great. Um, really growing the groups. Jets Hanger, Mafia Den, really growing the groups, and it's good collaboration, just good communication within each. I think we may try to do something a little special next year, so we'll see what happens. We're tinkering with some ideas with the podcast and the tie into the groups and things of that sort. So it'll be interesting things to come in the future. Stevie D, I don't know. Are we going to take our usual hiatus after
I'm
the
sure
season?
we'll take a little bit of a break.
Yeah. So
For
uh,
sure.
definitely. Oh, I little side story. Little side story for
After dark,
no,
story?
no, no, no. It's not an after dark one.
We're getting close to that hour. That it could
Wait,
be.
we are OW Sports After Dark. It's very special. It's very special. But I my mom had I was talking to her about the podcast and blah blah blah. She's like, "Wow, it's been out for 7 years." I was like, "Yeah, you've only been paying attention since we do the live stream." Said, we still have all the audio. I said, the audio's still out there, right? Said you can go to Spotify, at Apple Podcasts, you can go Google Podcasts, it's all over, right? Tune in. And she's like, "What, really?" She's like, "Yeah." So I got it set up for her so she could, hear season 1, episode 1. And so then I decided to listen to season 1, episode 1 of
Oh,
Official Word Sports Podcast. And it was a great show.
ooh, all
It
right.
was a great show.
All right.
And we had Romando was on.
Bro,
Yes,
bro, he was
yes,
there for episode 1. I forgot. Okay.
yes. And so it was good. It's funny where our teams were at that particular point, and none of us had a team in the playoffs, right? Because Ro was a Buccaneers fan, and the Jets and the Bills, and we were all struggling. But it was just funny, and kind of going the way back machine. So, if you guys ever want a good laugh, sometimes again, we played one of the clips that we had, but if you ever want a good laugh, in you're driving and you want to listen to these two guys go at it, plus Row, and as you go through, you'll hear new voices because we had JB, of course, we had Jay, so we've had our fair share of folks that were on with us during the early days until we kind of settled in with just the mano a mano, right? The PTI version, so us
The
going back.
better version.
We oh, no doubt, no doubt. I look better than Wilbon, and well,
I think
you
I look a little better than Kornheiser.
you and Coinizer. So, all right, everybody, that's gonna wrap this one up. Again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. It's always a pleasure to be here. We are Stevie D, and if anybody knows anybody interested in sponsoring a podcast, because we've actually had some conversations, so I will throw this out there. If anybody is either interested or knows someone interested in advertisement or sponsorship, because we're only going to have 2 next year, so we're only going to go with 2.
Yeah.
So we'll open it up and we'll make it available.
Well,
Mailbag at
yep.
owsports.net. You can hit us up on our Facebook. Just let us know.
And we're also looking for a producer as well. If there's anybody out there that wants to get their feet wet and in producing, that is something that we've talked about that as well. And we'd be more than happy to have those conversations offline. If there's anybody out there that wants to get into, producing a podcast and everything that goes into it, we can show you the ropes and talk through it all and the responsibilities. But that is something that we'd be looking for as well.
Absolutely, 100%. 100%. So, with that being said, that's going to wrap up this podcast. For my co-host Stevie D, I'm Vince.
gonna listen to? Oh, love on this sports. What you gonna listen to? Oh, love on this sports. Sit back, relax. Vince and Stevie D are gonna break it down about the team from their hometown. Josh the Key on touchdown. Rogers to Wilson touchdown.